In a distant corner of the galaxy, humanity had finally found allies. For years, Earth's leaders searched for civilizations capable of standing alongside them against the ever-growing threat of the Zorathian horde. The Valorans, an advanced and noble species, seemed like the perfect partners. With their sleek starships and powerful energy weapons, they promised to tip the balance in humanity's favor. Together, they formed an alliance, one that was celebrated across both worlds. Commander Jason Cole was chosen to represent Earth in this new partnership. A seasoned soldier with sharp instincts and a calm demeanor, he quickly earned the respect of his Valoran counterparts. Ambassador Laura Hayes joined him as the diplomatic voice of reason. Her ability to navigate tense negotiations made her invaluable. Under their leadership, humans and Valorans worked side by side, sharing knowledge and resources to prepare for the inevitable war with the Zorathians. The Galactic War Council served as the governing body overseeing this alliance. Comprised of representatives from various star systems, it was supposed to ensure unity among its members. But beneath its polished surface, cracks began to form. Some council members resented the growing influence of Earth and the Valorans. Others saw the Zorathians not as a threat but as an opportunity, trading secrets and resources in exchange for wealth and power. It all came to a head during a critical meeting aboard the Council's orbital station. The topic of discussion was grim. Reports indicated that the Zorathians were massing their forces near Valoran space. Queen Alira, the ruler of the Valoran Empire, pleaded for reinforcements. She warned that without immediate support, her people would face annihilation. Jason and Laura stood beside her, urging the Council to act swiftly. But instead of offering help, the Council turned on the Valorans. One by one, the representatives voted to abandon them. "They're too far away," argued a representative from a minor system. "Why should we risk our fleets for a planet on the edge of nowhere?" Another chimed in, claiming that the Valorans were arrogant and didn't deserve protection. Even worse, whispers spread about secret deals made with the Zorathians, deals that ensured certain systems wouldn't be targeted if they stayed out of the conflict. Jason couldn't believe what he was hearing. He slammed his fist on the table, demanding justice for the Valorans. "You're condemning an entire civilization to death," he shouted. Laura tried to reason with the Council, appealing to their sense of morality, but her words fell on deaf ears. In the end, the decision was unanimous. No aid would be sent to the Valorans. They were on their own. When Jason and Laura returned to their quarters, they felt defeated. The betrayal weighed heavily on them. How could they go back to Earth and tell their people that the Council had abandoned such loyal allies? Laura looked at Jason, her eyes filled with determination. "We can't let this stand," she said firmly. "If the Council won't help the Valorans, then we will." Jason nodded. He knew what they were planning was dangerous. It could cost them their careers, even their lives. But deep down, he also knew it was the right thing to do. That night, they began making plans. They reached out to trusted contacts within Earth's military, gathering supplies and volunteers willing to join their cause. Though small in number, these individuals shared their outrage over the Council's treachery. As the days passed, Jason and Laura prepared for what lay ahead. They knew the road would be difficult, but they refused to give up. The Valorans had fought alongside humanity when it mattered most. Now it was time to return the favor, even if it meant going against everything they'd been taught about duty and loyalty. Laura stood at the edge of the landing pad, her heart pounding as she watched the small shuttle descend through Voltoria's thick golden clouds. The air smelled faintly of ozone and something sweet she couldn't quite identify. She had left Earth without permission, knowing full well the risks of disobeying orders. But this mission was too important to ignore. If she could reach Queen Alira and convince her that Earth still had allies willing to fight, there might be a chance to save the Valoran people. The shuttle touched down with a soft hiss, and Laura stepped forward, clutching a data tablet containing evidence of the Galactic War Council's betrayal. 2 Valoran guards approached her, their armor gleaming under the planet's pale sun. Their expressions were unreadable behind their visors, but Laura held her ground. "I need to speak with Queen Alira," she said firmly. "It's urgent." After a tense moment, one of the guards nodded and led her into the palace. The halls were vast and eerily quiet, lined with towering statues of past Valoran rulers. Laura felt small and out of place, but she reminded herself why she was here. Finally, they reached a grand chamber where Queen Alira waited. The queen sat on a simple throne, her silver hair flowing like a river down her back. Her piercing blue eyes studied Laura carefully. "Ambassador Hayes," Alira said, her voice calm but tinged with sadness. "What brings you to Voltoria? I thought your council made its position clear." Laura swallowed hard. "Your Majesty, not everyone on Earth agrees with the council's decision. Many of us believe what happened was wrong, deeply wrong. We want to help." Alira leaned forward slightly, her gaze sharpening. "Help? How can you help when your own leaders have turned their backs on us? My people are dying, Ambassador. Entire colonies have been wiped out. Do you know what it's like to watch your world burn?" Laura hesitated, unsure how to respond. She hadn't expected the queen to be so direct, or so angry. "I don't know what it's like," she admitted softly. "But I know what it feels like to be betrayed. And I know we can't stand by while innocent lives are lost." For a long moment, Alira said nothing. Then she gestured for Laura to approach. "Show me what you've brought." Laura handed over the data tablet, explaining the information it contained. It detailed the Galactic War Council's secret dealings with the Zorethians, including communications and financial transactions proving their corruption. As Alira scrolled through the files, her expression darkened. When she finished, she looked up at Laura, her anger replaced by a flicker of hope. "This changes things," Alira said quietly. "If others see this, they'll understand the truth about the Council. But even with this knowledge, we're still outnumbered and outgunned. What do you propose we do?" Laura took a deep breath. "We fight together. Not just Earth and the Valorans, but anyone else who refuses to bow to the Zorethians or the Council's greed. Commander Jason Cole is already assembling a team back on Earth. They'll join us here, and together, we'll strike back." Alira considered this for a moment before nodding slowly. "Very well. You have my trust, for now. But know this, if you fail us, there will be no second chances." As Laura left the palace, she felt a mix of relief and dread. Convincing the queen was only the first step. Back on Earth, Jason was working tirelessly to gather support for their cause. He had recruited a small group of skilled individuals, each bringing unique talents to the table. Among them was Captain Ryan Mitchell, a fearless pilot known for his daring maneuvers in combat. Then there was Dr. Megan Carter, whose expertise in alien technology gave them an edge. Private Ethan Brooks, though young and inexperienced, showed remarkable determination and bravery during training exercises. Jason knew time was running out. Every day they delayed meant more lives lost on Valoran worlds. Supplies were gathered, old ships repaired, and weapons upgraded. Despite the growing danger, morale among the team remained high. They all shared a common goal: to right the wrongs committed by the Galactic War Council and protect those who couldn't defend themselves. When Laura returned to Earth, she found Jason waiting for her. His face lit up with relief upon seeing her safe. "Did you succeed?" he asked. She nodded. "Queen Alira is with us. But we need to move quickly. The Zorethians are closing in." Jason clenched his fists, resolve burning in his eyes. "Then let's get to work. For Earth, for the Valorans, and for everyone counting on us." Together, they prepared for the battle ahead, knowing the odds were against them, but determined to fight anyway. Jason stood in the dimly lit hangar of the Eclipse Asterisk, his eyes scanning the faces of the men and women who had volunteered for the mission. They were a mix of seasoned soldiers, scientists, and engineers, people who had chosen to defy their own government to do what was right. Each of them carried a look of determination, though Jason could see traces of fear in some of their expressions. He didn't blame them. What they were about to attempt was nothing short of insane. "Listen up," Jason said, his voice steady but loud enough to carry across the room. "We're going into enemy territory. The Zorathians are strong, and they're ruthless. But we have something they don't, an unbreakable will to protect those who can't protect themselves. That's why we're here. Not for glory, not for medals, but because it's the right thing to do." The group nodded, their resolve hardening. Captain Ryan Mitchell leaned casually against a nearby wall, his arms crossed. Though he appeared relaxed, his sharp green eyes missed nothing. "So, what's the plan, Commander?" he asked, his tone casual but serious. "How do we take on an army that's already crushed half the galaxy?" Jason turned to Dr. Megan Carter, who stood near a table covered with schematics and pieces of alien technology. She pushed her glasses up the bridge of her nose and cleared her throat. "We hit them where it hurts," she said, pointing to a diagram of a Zorathian warship. "Their shields are powered by energy cores located at specific points on their vessels. If we can disable those cores, even briefly, we can punch through their defenses." Private Ethan Brooks raised his hand hesitantly, looking younger than ever in his borrowed uniform. "What about their ground forces? Won't they just swarm us if we get too close?" Megan smiled faintly. "That's why we're modifying our ships with EMP charges. It won't destroy them, but it'll knock out their systems long enough for us to strike. And once we've weakened them, the Valorans can move in to finish the job." The team got to work immediately. Ryan spent hours in the cockpit of his fighter, running simulations and tweaking the controls to squeeze every ounce of speed and agility out of the aging vessel. Megan worked tirelessly alongside the engineers, retrofitting old cargo ships with advanced weaponry scavenged from Earth's reserves. Ethan, eager to prove himself, volunteered for grunt work, hauling equipment and assisting wherever he was needed. Despite his lack of experience, his enthusiasm earned him respect among the crew. Back on Earth, news of the Galactic War Council's betrayal began to spread. Whistleblowers leaked classified documents detailing the Council's secret deals with the Zorathians. Public outrage grew, and protests erupted in major cities across the planet. People demanded answers, and grassroots movements sprang up, calling for support of Jason's rogue mission. Some even donated supplies or offered their skills to the cause. But not everyone was on their side. Government agents arrived at the hangar one evening, demanding that Jason shut down the operation. He refused, standing firm as he argued that humanity's survival depended on stopping the Zorathians. The standoff ended when Laura stepped forward, holding up a live broadcast feed showing thousands of citizens rallying behind their cause. Faced with such overwhelming public support, the agents reluctantly backed off. For now. As the days passed, the team grew closer, united by their shared purpose. Meals were eaten together in the cramped mess hall. Stories exchanged over cups of weak coffee. Ryan teased Ethan mercilessly, but there was a warmth in his jokes that put the young soldier at ease. Megan often stayed up late, teaching Ethan the basics of alien tech repair. Even Jason found himself loosening up, sharing tales of past battles and laughing at Ryan's sarcastic remarks. Finally, the preparations were complete. The Eclipse gleamed under the hangar lights, its hull reinforced and weapons primed. Smaller fighters lined the walls, ready to launch at a moment's notice. As the team gathered for one last briefing, Jason looked around the room, feeling the surge of pride. "We've done everything we can to prepare," he said. "Now it's time to show the Zorathians and the Galactic War Council that Earth doesn't back down. No matter the cost, we're going to stand with the Valorans. Are you ready?" A chorus of affirmatives echoed through the hangar, each voice filled with determination. They knew the road ahead would be dangerous, but they also knew they weren't alone. Together, they would fight, not just for victory, but for justice. The Eclipse slipped silently through the vast expanse of space, its engines humming softly as it carried Jason and his team toward the Valoran homeworld. The journey was tense, every moment filled with the possibility of ambush. The Zorathians were known for their relentless patrols, and the crew knew it was only a matter of time before they encountered enemy ships. It happened on the third day of their voyage. Ryan was in the cockpit of his fighter, scouting ahead of the main fleet, when he spotted movement on his sensors. "Commander, we've got company," he said over the comms, his voice calm but urgent. 3 Zorathian scouts, closing fast. Jason's voice crackled back immediately. "Hold your position, Ryan. Let them come to us. We'll use the asteroid field up ahead to our advantage." Ryan smirked, his hands tightening on the controls. He loved a good challenge. As the enemy ships drew closer, he signaled the rest of the team to follow him into the dense cluster of rocks. The asteroids were jagged and unpredictable, making navigation difficult, but that was exactly what Ryan was counting on. The Zorathian pilots weren't expecting such boldness from a small human fleet. They charged in recklessly, firing energy blasts that ricocheted off the asteroids and lit up the darkness. Ryan twisted his ship into tight spirals, dodging each shot with practiced ease. Behind him, Ethan and the other pilots followed his lead, weaving through the chaos like dancers in a deadly ballet. "Now," Jason shouted over the comms. Megan had equipped their ships with EMP charges, and now was the time to use them. Ryan released a burst of electromagnetic energy, targeting the nearest Zorathian vessel. The enemy ship shuddered, its systems failing as the pulse hit. It drifted helplessly, a sitting duck. The remaining 2 scouts tried to retreat, but the team was ready. Ethan fired a precise shot, disabling one of the ships, while another pilot finished off the last scout with a well-placed missile. The entire skirmish lasted less than 10 minutes, but the victory was crucial. It gave the team confidence and valuable intel. After the battle, Megan examined fragments of Zorathian tech recovered from the wreckage. Her eyes widened as she analyzed the data. "This is it," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. "I found a pattern in their shield frequencies. If we can replicate this disruption on a larger scale, we might be able to disable entire fleets." Jason nodded, a flicker of hope igniting within him. "Good work, Megan. Keep refining the data. We'll need every advantage when we reach Valtoria." As they approached the Valoran homeworld, the devastation became clear. Once thriving cities lay in ruins, their skies choked with smoke. Survivors huddled in makeshift shelters, their faces etched with despair. Queen Alira greeted the team personally, her expression grim but grateful. "You came," she said simply, her voice heavy with emotion. "We said we would," Jason replied. "And we're not alone. Earth stands with you, not just us, but countless others who refuse to bow to the Council's corruption." Alira nodded, though her gaze remained distant. "We've lost so much already, but with your help, we can still turn the tide." Over the next few days, the combined forces of Earth and the Valorans worked tirelessly to prepare for the battles ahead. Ryan trained Valoran pilots in advanced combat maneuvers, earning their respect with his skill and humor. Megan collaborated with Valoran scientists, sharing her findings about the Zorathian shields. Ethan spent hours helping repair damaged ships, his hands blistered but his spirit unbroken. One evening, as the team gathered around a campfire outside the hangar, Ethan looked at the stars and spoke quietly. "Do you think we can really win this?" Jason glanced at him, then at the others. "Winning isn't guaranteed," he admitted, "but giving up isn't an option. We fight because we have to, for Earth, for the Valorans, and for everyone who believes in doing what's right." No one said anything after that, but the silence was filled with unspoken determination. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had something the Zorathians didn't: heart. And sometimes that made all the difference. The days following the team's arrival on Valtoria were a blur of activity. Jason and Laura worked side by side with Queen Alira to rebuild trust between Earth and the Valorans. It wasn't easy. Many of the Valoran soldiers and civilians still harbored deep resentment toward humanity after the Galactic War Council's betrayal. Every interaction felt like walking a tightrope, balancing diplomacy with action. Jason addressed the Valoran Council in a packed chamber, his voice steady but firm. "I know what the Council did was unforgivable," he began, looking directly at the skeptical faces before him. "But we're not asking for forgiveness. We're here because we believe in standing together against tyranny. The Zorathians don't just threaten your world. They threaten all of us. If we don't fight now, no one will be safe." Laura stood beside him, holding up a holographic display that showed the evidence Megan had uncovered. Secret communications between the Galactic War Council and the Zorathians. Gasps rippled through the room as the truth sank in. One elder stood up, his voice trembling with anger. "You expect us to trust you after this? I expect you to decide what kind of future you want." Jason replied without hesitation. "We can't change the past, but we can shape what comes next. Let us help you." Slowly, the skepticism began to fade. Queen Alira stepped forward, her presence commanding respect. "Enough," she said firmly. "These humans have risked everything to stand with us. They've shown more honor than those who abandoned us. From this moment, they are our allies." With the decision made, the real work began. Laura spent hours strategizing with Alira, poring over maps and battle plans. She learned quickly how the Valorans fought, disciplined yet adaptable, with a focus on protecting their people above all else. Alira, in turn, admired Laura's sharp mind and unwavering dedication. Together, they crafted a plan to strike back at the Zorathians while minimizing civilian casualties. Meanwhile, Ethan threw himself into training alongside the Valoran soldiers. At first, they eyed him with suspicion, unsure what to make of the young human who barely looked old enough to hold a weapon. But Ethan didn't let their doubts discourage him. He trained harder than anyone, pushing himself until his muscles ached and his hands bled. When the soldiers saw his determination, their attitudes shifted. By the end of the first week, they welcomed him as one of their own, even teaching him Valoran combat techniques. Ryan became a legend among the Valoran pilots almost overnight. His daring maneuvers during practice flights left them speechless. "You fly like you've got nothing to lose," one pilot joked after watching Ryan pull off an impossible barrel roll. "That's because I don't," Ryan shot back with a grin. But beneath his bravado, he understood the weight of what they were doing. Each flight, each simulation, brought them closer to the real fight, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Megan worked tirelessly in the labs, refining the EMP technology and testing it on captured Zorathian equipment. Her breakthrough came late one night when she successfully disrupted a shield generator using the frequency pattern she'd discovered. Exhausted but triumphant, she ran to find Jason. "It works," she said breathlessly. "If we can scale this up, we'll have a way to disable entire fleets." Jason smiled, relief washing over him. "Good work, Megan. This could be the edge we need." As the coalition grew stronger, so did the bonds between its members. Meals were shared under the stars, laughter breaking through the tension of war. Stories were exchanged, tales of home, of loved ones left behind, of dreams for the future. For the first time since the mission began, Jason allowed himself to feel a flicker of hope. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for something worth living for. But the calm didn't last long. Scouting reports confirmed that the Zorathians were massing near a key Valoran colony. If they attacked, the colony would fall within hours. The team knew they couldn't wait any longer. It was time to test their new strategies and their newfound unity. In battle, "We've done everything we can to prepare," Jason told the group as they gathered in the hangar. "Now it's time to show the Zorathians why they should fear us." No one spoke, but their eyes said it all. Fear, resolve, and determination burned in each of them. They were ready. The first major battle came sooner than anyone expected. Reports poured in that the Zorathians had launched a massive assault on a Valoran colony located at the edge of their territory. The colony was small but vital, housing supply depots and medical facilities crucial to the war effort. If it fell, the coalition's morale and their resources would take a devastating hit. Jason called an emergency meeting aboard the Eclipse Asterisk. The team gathered around a holographic map displaying the colony's layout and the approaching Zorathian forces. "We can't let them take this," Jason said, his voice firm. "This is our chance to show them we're not backing down." Ryan leaned forward, studying the map. "Their fleet is bigger than ours, but they'll be stretched thin, covering all entry points. If we hit them hard and fast, we can break their momentum." Megan chimed in, holding up a modified EMP device. "I've boosted the range of these charges. If we deploy them strategically, we can disable multiple ships at once. But timing will be key." Ethan nodded, though his knuckles were white from gripping the edge of the table. "What about ground forces? Won't they overwhelm the colonists?" "That's where we come in," Laura said, stepping forward. She had coordinated with the colony's defenders, ensuring they were ready for the attack. "We'll split into 2 teams. One will focus on disabling their fleet, while the other provides support on the ground. If we work together, we can hold them off long enough for reinforcements to arrive." The plan was risky, but there was no time to hesitate. The Eclipse Asterisk led the charge, flanked by Ryan's fighters and several Valorant ships. As they approached the enemy fleet, Megan activated the EMP charges. A pulse of energy surged outward, disrupting the shields of 3 Zorathian vessels. The stunned enemy ships faltered, giving Ryan and the pilots their opening. "Time to dance," Ryan muttered as he swooped in, firing precise shots at the exposed hulls of the disabled ships. Explosions lit up the void as the Zorathians scrambled to recover. Behind him, Ethan followed closely, his hand steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. He targeted smaller scout ships, picking them off one by one. On the ground, chaos erupted as Zorathian troops descended onto the colony. Laser fire filled the air, and civilians ran for cover. Laura and a squad of Valoran soldiers moved quickly, setting up defensive positions near the supply depot. They used makeshift barricades to hold back waves of enemies, their weapons glowing hot from constant use. Ethan joined them after landing his ship, carrying crates of ammunition and medical supplies. His presence boosted the defenders' spirits. "Keep it up," he shouted, reloading his rifle. "We've got this." Back in space, Jason coordinated the fleet's movements, calling out targets and adjusting strategies on the fly. Megan monitored the EMP devices, ensuring they didn't overheat. "One more charge left," she warned. "Make it count." Ryan heard her over the comms and grinned. "Leave it to me." He dove his fighter toward the largest Zorathian cruiser, dodging blasts as he closed the distance. At the last second, he released the final EMP pulse, crippling the ship's engines. It drifted helplessly, blocking the path of the rest of the fleet. With their advantage slipping away, the Zorathians began retreating. Cheers erupted among the coalition forces as the enemy withdrew, leaving behind smoldering wreckage and broken lines. On the ground, Laura and her team secured the colony, tending to the wounded and assessing the damage. When the dust settled, Jason gathered the team to debrief. Exhaustion lined their faces, but there was pride in their eyes. "We did it," he said simply. "But this is just the beginning. They'll regroup and come back stronger." Laura nodded. "And when they do, we'll be ready. Because now they know they're not facing scattered worlds anymore. They're facing the united front." As the sun rose over the battered colony, Ethan looked out at the horizon. For the first time, he felt like they truly had a chance. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for hope. And that made all the difference. The victory at the colony gave the coalition a much-needed boost, but it also made them a bigger target. Word of their success spread quickly, not just among their allies, but also to the Zorathians. The enemy wasn't used to losing, and they weren't about to let this defiance go unpunished. Reports soon came in that the Zorathians were mobilizing their forces for a counterattack, aiming to crush the resistance before it could grow any stronger. Jason knew they couldn't afford to wait around. "We've got momentum," he told the team during a strategy meeting aboard the Eclipse Asterisk. "If we push forward now, we can keep them on the defensive. But if we sit back, they'll overwhelm us." Ryan leaned back in his chair, tapping his fingers on the table. "So what's the plan? Hit another one of their strongholds?" "Exactly," Jason replied. "There's a key outpost on the edge of Zorathian territory. It's heavily guarded, but if we take it out, we cut off their supply lines to nearby systems. Without those resources, they'll struggle to keep their forces running smoothly." Megan nodded, already thinking ahead. "I've been studying their shield patterns. If we hit them with EMP charges first, we can disable their defenses long enough to breach the perimeter. Once inside, we'll need to move fast. They'll have backup on the way." Laura added, "And we'll need ground teams ready to secure the facility. The Zorathians won't give it up without a fight." Preparations began immediately. The team worked around the clock, fine-tuning weapons, repairing ships, and planning every detail of the assault. Ethan spent hours practicing close-quarters combat with Valoran soldiers, learning how to move silently and strike decisively. Ryan ran simulations of the attack, testing different flight paths and formations to maximize their chances of success. Megan stayed in the lab, tweaking the EMP devices to ensure they'd hold up under pressure. When the day of the mission arrived, the air was thick with tension. Everyone knew the stakes were higher than ever. As the fleet approached the outpost, Jason addressed the crew over the comms. "This isn't just about winning a battle. It's about proving that we can stand together and fight back. No matter what happens, remember why we're here." The attack began with Megan triggering the EMP charges. A wave of energy surged outward, disabling the outpost's shields and leaving it vulnerable. Ryan led the charge, diving his fighter through the opening and taking out anti-air turrets with pinpoint accuracy. Behind him, Ethan and the ground teams deployed onto the surface, racing toward the facility's main entrance. Inside, chaos reigned. Zorathian guards scrambled to respond, but the coalition forces moved swiftly, overwhelming them room by room. Ethan found himself face to face with an enemy soldier, his heart pounding as he pulled the trigger. The Zorathian fell, and Ethan forced himself to keep moving, knowing there was no time to hesitate. Meanwhile, Laura coordinated the operation from a command post outside, directing reinforcements where they were needed most. Her calm voice cut through the noise, keeping everyone focused. "Hold your positions. They're trying to flank you." As the battle raged on, Queen Alira arrived with additional Valoran troops, tipping the scales in their favor. Together, they secured the outpost, destroying critical infrastructure before retreating to avoid reinforcements. By the time the Zorathians regrouped, all that remained was a smoldering ruin. Back aboard the Eclipse Asterisk, the team gathered to assess the damage. Exhaustion weighed heavily on them, but there was pride in their eyes. They had struck a blow against the enemy, a significant one. "This changes things," Laura said, her voice filled with quiet determination. "They know we're not backing down. Now the galaxy knows too." Jason nodded, looking at each member of the team. "We've shown them what we're capable of. But this war isn't over yet. Not by a long shot." For the first time since the mission began, hope felt real. They had proven that even the mightiest enemies could bleed, and that unity was their greatest weapon. The Coalition's string of victories began to ripple across the galaxy. News of their defiance against the Zorathians spread like wildfire, carried by traders, refugees, and even sympathetic members of the Galactic War Council who had grown disillusioned with its corruption. The message was clear. Earth and the Valorans weren't backing down, and they were winning. Jason and Laura seized the moment, using the momentum to rally more allies. They broadcast open calls for support, urging other star systems to join their fight. "This isn't just about us," Laura said in one transmission, her voice steady and passionate. "It's about standing up to tyranny, about saying no to greed and betrayal. If we don't act now, no one will." Their words struck a chord. Dozens of smaller planets, once too afraid to oppose the Zorathians or the Council, began sending ships, supplies, and volunteers. Some sent only token forces, but others committed fully, seeing the coalition as their last hope for survival. Queen Alira welcomed them all, her gratitude evident as she addressed the growing fleet. "We are stronger together," she told the assembled captains. "Stronger than fear, stronger than hate. Together, we will end this war." With their ranks swelling, Jason and his team launched a series of bold strikes against Zorathian strongholds. Each mission was carefully planned, leveraging Megan's EMP technology and Ryan's daring flight maneuvers to disable enemy defenses. On the ground, Ethan led squads of mixed human and Valorant soldiers, proving himself as a capable leader. His bravery inspired those around him, earning him nicknames like Brooks the Brave among the Valorans. But it wasn't just brute force that turned the tide, it was strategy. Laura worked tirelessly to forge alliances beyond the battlefield, negotiating ceasefires with neutral factions and securing safe passage through contested territories. Her diplomacy ensured that the coalition could focus on fighting without worrying about being flanked by opportunistic enemies. One night, after a particularly grueling battle, Megan made a breakthrough. She had been analyzing data from captured Zorathian tech, looking for patterns in their command structure. What she found shocked her. "Their entire operation is controlled from a single hub," she explained to Jason, pulling up a holographic map. "If we can take out this central node, it'll disrupt their ability to coordinate attacks. It might not destroy them completely, but it'll cripple their efforts." Jason studied the map, his mind racing. The hub was located deep within Zorathian territory, heavily guarded and nearly impossible to reach. But if they succeeded, it could be the turning point they needed. "We'll need everything we've got for this," he said finally. "Every ship, every soldier. This is our best shot." Preparations began immediately. The fleet gathered at a secret location near the edge of Zorathian space, far enough to avoid detection, but close enough to strike quickly. Morale was high, bolstered by the knowledge that they were fighting for something bigger than themselves. Veterans shared stories with newcomers, forging bonds that transcended species and worlds. As the day of the assault approached, Jason addressed the entire coalition. "This won't be easy," he admitted, "but we've come too far to turn back now. We've shown the Zorathians and the Galactic War Council that we're not afraid to stand up for what's right. Today, we finish what we started." When the fleet launched, it was a sight to behold. Hundreds of ships, representing dozens of species, moved as one toward their target. Ryan flew ahead, his fighter darting between asteroids as he scouted for threats. Behind him, Ethan and the ground teams prepared to breach the hub's defenses. The battle was fierce, with both sides giving everything they had. Explosions lit up the sky as fighters clashed above the facility, while inside, Ethan led his squad through narrow corridors, clearing rooms and disabling traps. Megan monitored the EMP devices remotely, ensuring they hit their mark at the right moment. Finally, after hours of relentless fighting, the hub fell silent. Systems went dark, and the Zorathians' coordination crumbled. Cheers erupted across the fleet as word spread. They had done it. The enemy was reeling, unable to regroup. Back aboard the Eclipse Asterisk, Jason looked out at the battered but victorious fleet. "We've taken their strength away," he said quietly. "Now it's time to finish this." For the first time, victory felt possible, not just a dream, but a reality within reach. With the Zorathian command hub destroyed, the coalition's momentum surged. The enemy was in disarray, their once coordinated attacks reduced to scattered raids. But Jason knew they couldn't afford to rest. The Galactic War Council still loomed as a threat, a shadowy force that had betrayed not only the Valorans, but also its own people. If they were going to win this war, the Council's corruption had to be exposed and dismantled. Laura stood beside Jason in the Eclipse Asterisk's briefing room, her expression resolute. "The Council thinks they're untouchable, she said, her voice sharp with anger. "But we have proof of their crimes. It's time to bring them down." Jason nodded. "If we can expose what they've done, the deals they made with the Zorathians, the lives they sacrificed, it'll turn the galaxy against them. They won't be able to hide anymore." The plan was risky. Disguised as diplomats, Jason and Laura boarded a shuttle bound for the Council's orbital station, carrying encrypted data containing all the evidence Megan had compiled. Ryan volunteered to stay behind, ready to extract them if things went wrong. "Just don't get yourselves killed," he said with a smirk before they left. "We need you alive to lead the charge." When they arrived at the Council chambers, Jason and Laura were met with suspicion. Security scans delayed their entry, but eventually they were ushered into the grand hall where the Council members sat, their faces masks of arrogance and disdain. One representative, a tall man with cold gray eyes, sneered at them. "What is this nonsense?" he demanded. "You're out of line, Commander Cole." Jason stepped forward, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Out of line? You want to talk about being out of line? Your greed and cowardice have cost millions of lives. You sold out the Valorans and Earth to the Zorathians. And now, thanks to your betrayal, billions are suffering." Murmurs rippled through the chamber as Laura activated the holographic display, projecting damning evidence of the Council's corruption. Secret communications, financial transactions, and even footage of Council members negotiating with Zorathian leaders. Gasps echoed through the room as the truth came to light. One Council member tried to deny it, his face red with fury. "This is slander. Lies spread by enemies of progress." "It's not slander if it's true," Laura shot back, her tone cutting like steel. "And the galaxy deserves to know who you really are." Before the Council could react, Jason signaled for the live broadcast to begin. Across the galaxy, billions tuned in, watching as the Council's crimes were laid bare. Outrage erupted instantly. Protests flared on planets loyal to the Council, while neutral systems turned against them entirely. Even some Council members looked shaken, realizing they had been complicit in unspeakable acts. Back aboard the Eclipse Asterisk, Ryan watched the broadcast with a grin. "Looks like we just kicked over the biggest hornet's nest in the galaxy." As the Council dissolved into chaos, Earth's provisional government stepped in, arresting key members and seizing control of the Council's assets. A new leadership emerged, pledging full support for the Coalition's fight against the Zorathians. Supplies and reinforcements poured in, strengthening the fleet. Jason and Laura returned to the Eclipse Asterisk, greeted as heroes. Ethan clapped Jason on the back, his young face filled with admiration. "You did it," he said. "You took them down." "We didn't do it alone," Jason replied, looking around at the team. "Every single one of us played a part." With the Council out of the way, the Coalition focused on finishing the war. Queen Alira addressed the combined forces, her voice ringing with determination. "The Zorathians are weak now. Let's strike hard and end this once and for all." The stage was set for the final battle. The galaxy was united, not just in purpose, but in hope. And for the first time, victory felt within reach. The final battle began at dawn, the skies above the Zorathian homeworld glowing red with streaks of plasma fire. The Coalition fleet, larger than ever before, descended upon the enemy's stronghold. Ships from dozens of star systems flew side by side, their banners representing unity in the face of tyranny. Jason stood on the bridge of the Eclipse Asterisk, his eyes fixed on the massive fortress-like structure that loomed ahead, the heart of the Zorathian Empire. "This is it," he said, his voice calm but firm as he addressed the crew. "Everything we fought for comes down to this. Stay sharp and remember why we're here." Ryan's fighter darted through the chaos, weaving between explosions as he led the charge against the Zorathian defenses. His squadron followed closely, their movements precise and coordinated. Megan's EMP technology played a crucial role, disabling entire sections of the enemy fleet with each pulse. The Zorethians scrambled to recover, but their once dominant forces were now fractured and disorganized. On the ground, Ethan and a mixed team of human and Valoran soldiers breached the outer defenses of the fortress. Laser blasts lit up the air as they pushed forward, fighting their way through wave after wave of enemies. Ethan had grown into a seasoned warrior, his fear replaced by determination. He shouted orders to his squad, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "Hold the line. We can't let them push us back." Queen Alira herself joined the ground assault, her silver armor gleaming under the harsh light of the alien sun. She wielded a sleek energy blade, cutting down Zorethian soldiers with swift, deadly precision. Her presence inspired the troops, who fought with renewed vigor. Together, they carved a path toward the fortress's central chamber, where the Zorethian leader was said to be waiting. Inside the chamber, the air was thick with tension. The Zorethian leader, a towering figure clad in dark, armored robes, stood atop a raised platform, his glowing eyes filled with rage. "You think you can defeat us?" he snarled, his voice echoing through the cavernous room. "We are eternal." Alira stepped forward, her expression unyielding. "Not anymore," she replied, raising her weapon. With a fierce cry, she charged, her blade clashing against the leader's heavy gauntlets. The battle was intense, each strike sending sparks flying. Ethan and the others provided cover, taking down guards and clearing the way for their queen. Finally, with one decisive blow, Alira struck the killing blow, piercing the leader's chest. He stumbled backward, his body collapsing onto the platform as his lifeless eyes dimmed. The fortress trembled, its systems failing as the Zorethian command structure crumbled. Outside, the remaining Zorethian forces began to retreat, their morale shattered. The coalition pressed their advantage, ensuring no counterattack could be mounted. As the last ships fled, cheers erupted across the fleet. They had done it. They had won. Back aboard the Eclipse Asterisk, Jason and Laura embraced, relief washing over them. Ryan landed his fighter, grinning as he climbed out. "Guess we showed them who's boss," he said with a laugh. Megan ran diagnostics on the EMP devices, making sure they hadn't caused any unintended damage to nearby planets. Ethan sat on the edge of the hangar bay, his hands trembling as the reality of what they'd accomplished sank in. They had faced impossible odds and triumphed. In the days that followed, Earth and the Valorans signed a permanent treaty, vowing never to repeat the mistakes of the past. Queen Alira addressed the galaxy, thanking everyone who had fought for freedom. "Today we stand united," she declared. "Let this victory remind us that even in our darkest hour, hope can prevail." Jason and Laura returned to Earth as heroes, hailed for their courage and integrity. Though scared by loss, they knew their actions had forged a brighter future for all sentient beings. The war was over, but the bonds they had formed would endure, a testament to the power of unity and the strength of those who refused to give up.